With all the situation happening in the country, I wonder, will the ANC, the governing party, be punished at the ballot box? Pleasant day to all.
Pleasant day to all. Pleasant day to all. The real question is, we want some answers. South Africans are owed some answers.
702.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
On a walkabout in Soweto yesterday, the State Security Deputy Minister Zizi Kodwa said people are being used by the instigators with political agendas and ulterior motives to destabilize the country. He joins us now to explain exactly what he means. Firstly, Deputy Minister, thank you for your time this morning. Broadly, your reaction to everything that has happened this week.
Thanks very much, Bongani, and thanks for the opportunity. What has happened is quite unfortunate. What started to be as a political protest has turned to be what we see now, a destruction of property, a destruction of the economy, but a clear orchestrated plan of economic sabotage for very ulterior motives to destabilize the country, given the firm and the strong stance taken by President Ramaphosa, who has now become a target of the instigators.
The major criticism in terms of the response to all of this has been that particularly the intelligence services have been asleep at the wheel.
Of course, Bongani, we must accept that every turn and every time when there is catastrophe in any country, whether you're talking about 9/11, there is always an attack on the intelligence. What unfortunately intelligence cannot do is to stand up in public and say, we told you, because intelligence does not have what is called a law enforcement mandate. What we do, we process information, like the scenarios, part of the scenarios, because this has been building up for some time, even before the Concord ruling. And we have been sharing that information with law enforcement, that some of the unfortunate statements that have been made associated with the governing party, attack against and to delegitimize the judiciary and so on. We've been following up in terms of domestic stability. The intelligence has been on the roll and has been picking up some of those issues. We have shared of the potential and the possibility of scenario where we find ourselves with law enforcement agencies.
Are you saying you weren't listened to?
Well,
I'm going to just ask you, I'm not sure what's happening. Our line keeps cutting there. Let me just give you a chance to say that again. Are you saying you weren't listened to?
I'm saying the law enforcement agents must look at themselves with foresight and say, what we could have done better? And I think it could have been averted. I must say from the intelligence view, working with the law enforcement agencies, Bongani, a lot has been averted. The plot was big to pick up and neutralize the threats that we picked up.
Firstly, let me just respond to what you're saying. A lot worse could have happened. I think that's what the minister yesterday also said, Ayanda Dlodlo, this week. How much worse? What was averted?
The plan, Bongani, was that you must disrupt the distribution and supply, which is why the pre-deployment of 2005 soldiers, among others, was based on the initial intelligence information. For example, the distribution from the coast to the inland, which we're beginning to see now, the target on the water treatment plants, the reservoirs, and the energy, the fuel, and so on. That was the first intelligence information, which is why you see the 2005 deployment is based on that in terms of the coast. But that plan also mutated because we were able to avert that to target malls. Part of targeting malls is part of agitating for what is called popular revolt. So that people at the end of the day, you abuse and exploit their socioeconomic conditions, which unfortunately, those who loot, they don't understand the bigger plan. They go and loot, some of them, they even loot a mortuary. There's nothing to eat in the mortuary. They loot South African blood services. There's nothing to eat there. But the plan is just to destroy everything else so that at the end of the day, there must be an agitation for a popular revolt and remove this government led by Ramaphosa because of the stance and the firm stance that President Ramaphosa has taken on corruption.
I would put it to you then that the reaction has been woefully inadequate. If the situation was as dire as what you've described, 2,500 soldiers were never going to be enough to deal with this mayhem. We had a scenario where, in some cases, police officers were running out of ammunition. They were using underpowered tear gas to try and dispel some of these crowds. At one point, troops that were deployed to an area were stranded for lack of transport to get to where they were needed. I would put it to you then, if the situation was as bad as you say it could have got, your response was completely woeful.
The first point we must make and emphasize, Mongani, the first deployment, I call it a pre-deployment, was based on the information that the targeting then was critical installations, your national key points, your airports, your water treatment plant, your reservoirs, the fuel and energy and so on. And I must say that the deployment which we see now, the President has approved 25,000, is also informed by the latest information that actually we were able to neutralize the first threat in terms of disruption of distribution and supply. You are now dealing with malls so that you agitate people at the end of the day so that they cannot access what is called basic necessities, bread, fuel, paraffin, and so on. That's why now the deployment is based on the new information that actually...
Is it new information, though? I mean, some of this began, as early as Saturday. Certainly by Sunday, it was quite obvious where this thing was going. The ministers were nowhere to be seen. Is it new information? We've all been watching with horror and seeing the inadequate response.
I'm not saying new as if it is today, Bongani. I'm saying earlier. That's why I'm saying there's been a build-up to this, even before the Concord judgment. I'm saying new on the basis that the initial plan of the instigators, it was averted. New information about targeting, because the plan is mutating every day, Bongani. So as intelligent is that you are chasing a moving target.
So you're going to be playing catch-up the whole time. Is that what you're saying?
It's not a catch-up, Bongani. That's why, for an example, we are throwing up scenarios about beyond what we see today. We know the plan even beyond. That's why I'm talking about destabilization beyond what we see today, the economic sabotage, and broadly to make sure that at the end of the day, it's a low-intent intention to remove the current leadership led by President Ramaphosa. We're already postulating what will be the plan. That's why I'm talking about that could lead to domestic instability, but equally to make sure that there is agitation for what is called popular revolt. But
Deputy Minister, if you're saying that, I mean, you're clearly framing this as part of the battles we've been seeing in the governing party. If the plan is to destabilize President Ramaphosa's administration and his government, then surely the logical follow-up is that these aren't phantom figures fanning these flames. You must surely know who these instigators are. Why aren't we seeing arrests? Why aren't we seeing charges?
I have no doubt that you will see arrests soon. We have already provided and shared that information with our client. Our client in this case is SARS, to say the following individuals.
Your client that doesn't listen to you?
Well, I think at some point, maybe when I listened to the Minister of Police, I think a day or two ago, I spoke about 12 names. And I think that list has increased now from our point of view in terms of the behind all of this chaos.
But you see, even that just frustrates me. It can't be just 12. It can't be just, a dirty dozen. I mean, you and I could not on any day decide, I don't know, just walk down the road to Sandton City and start looting. These things are coordinated. Messages and information is disseminated. People know when to gather. They know where to gather. They know how many people are going to show up to overwhelm security, whatever security there might be at a particular mall. Why don't you have that information?
We do have that. That's why I'm saying the Minister of Police only spoke about 12. And I'm saying from our point of view, it's not just 12. It's more than that. Our view is well orchestrated. It's well planned. We are looking for masterminds. We even gave a list of masterminds. And we are informed that law enforcement are beginning to knock at people's doors. I'm sure the arrest, you will know about them soon. What I think we must take comfort, Bongani, is that the millions of South Africans are against people who have many communities are rising up to protect their properties, to protect
because
the
the state won't, because the state has failed to do so. And that's why we're seeing the situation, for example, in KZN escalate into what potentially could be a race war.
That's why Bongani, we never anticipated, and I don't think we should encourage and appreciate the fact that it is only the state that has a responsibility. The communities themselves, that is why we have seen us talking to communities. I've been talking to a number of communities in areas, even if we have not seen a flare-up. But we must encourage people and discourage them, rather, not to participate in these issues, in this chaos, because when people of certain areas, they are being encouraged to loot, they continue to say, millions of South Africans, they continue to say, unleasy. Whether it's people of deep slot, we've seen them, when they are encouraged by a few individuals who are holding the country at ransom, they say unleasy. The people of East London, the people of Kwamashu, who are in Soweto, majority of people of Soweto, they say unleasy.
So let me ask you this. What is happening in Phoenix right now? What do you know about that?
What we, again, is part of the scenarios, part of the plan of the instigators, is that to an extent that they wanted to stabilize the country, they also planned what is called, in the right-wing language, even a lone wolf must start a racial tension and a racial war in South Africa. And what we see is but one scenario. That's why the minister, immediately yesterday, the Minister of Police, went to quell tensions.
Hold on. Are you telling me right-wing elements are being dragged into this as part of the effort to destabilize Ramaphosa's government? Is that seriously what you're telling me is happening in Phoenix right now?
No, the right-wing element.
My question was specific, Deputy Minister. What is going on in Phoenix right now? Can you tell me what intelligence you have about that now?
What we see in Phoenix is a community that started to protect their own property, but is beginning to have an element of vigilantism. And that is what we encourage, even as communities protect their own properties, but it must not lead to vigilantism. But that is a situation that I think we are attending to, because it could lead to a racial tension, which again, in the scenarios we threw up from an intelligence point of view, is what instigators also planned.
But it's also why you should protect the citizenry. I mean, you talk about these masterminds, they're clearly beating you at this game. They're better at you than you are. They're better at it than you are.
It's a matter of analysis, Bongani. I accept that South Africans at the moment, they have the right and I think the genuine concern to blame the state, to blame government. But I think I must assure South Africans that the situation, the government is on top of the situation. But of course, the socio-economic conditions of our people is being exploited. We are ahead in terms of the plan, but I must say that the deployment of boots on the ground has not been sufficient.
Deputy Minister, I'm going to ask you to put on another hat. You've been a spokesperson of the governing party. A lot of the fingers have pointed at incompetence, at failures in intelligence, but a lot of this blame must surely also go to the ANC. You've dragged, as the party that's in government, you've dragged us all into your factional mess, and we're the ones who are paying in terms of this economy and in terms of the lives that are being lost.
I must admit that, firstly, part of what is leading to is a participation of people or members associated with the governing party, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, in terms of that.
They're not associated, they are your members. They're not just associated. They're not your pals, they're your members.
Which is why, from a state and the government point of view, is that we will not look at your association, which is why the investigation has beginning to pick up some instigators, some of whom, of course, like you said, I must agree with you, they are members of the governing party, and they are on the list of people that the law enforcement agencies, in a matter of days, is knocking at their doors to make sure that they are facing the rule of law.
It's not just about apprehension. It's making sure that the people you are pointing the finger at can be successfully prosecuted. I'm not sure, listening to you now, you have even enough information.
I think from a state security point of view, we do have enough information about people who have forwarded that list to the law enforcement agency. Information about meetings that were held, some of the information, Bongani, is open source. It's not just about intelligence. It's open source about conversation that people continue to have on WhatsApp groups, whether about meetings. So it's open source information. I listen to you every day. I listen to you, some of your callers, they share this information. We listen to them. It's open source information about the planned destabilization and who is behind this. So it's not a secret.
When does it end?
Issues of intelligence.
Zizi Kodwa, when will all this end?
Say it again.
When will all of this end?
I have no doubt this will not last for the longest time. That's why today...
When do you anticipate government will be in full control of this country and the security of the citizens?
Our view is that we should have quelled the situation by the end of this week. But of course, like I say, the instigators will not stop at anything. We will continue to arrest the instigators, but we must deal with what the instigators have planted in society. The issues about socio-economic conditions of our people that continue to be exploited, particularly the youth, that should be an ongoing struggle.
Zizi Kodwa, I appreciate your time and some of your frank admissions. There were more than I thought I would get. Appreciate your time. Deputy Minister of State Security on the line.
Current events, developing stories,
Tough questions.
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.